Welcome, everybody. This is Marcel, Canadian journalist, Ernie Racing News. Everybody's heard the news that Trudeau resigns. Well, did he actually resign? Or is he just saying he's going to resign? Another chess move by Trudeau that screws over Canadians, screws over Canada, and people don't quite understand. A lot of people are celebrating in the comments. It's like, hey, congrats. No, this is actually the worst thing ever that could have happened right now with Trudeau and Canada. He has prevented us from having an election. Polyev and everybody else was going to come back on January 20th to Parliament after they have their month and a half off, or during for Christmas. They get a month off, right? Then they're back in Parliament. And in the meantime, Polyev, the leader of the Conservative Party, was going to enter a motion for a non-confidence vote. And then when they returned in Parliament on the 20th or 21st, they would be organizing that non-confidence vote and vote on it in Parliament. What Trudeau has done is he's closed Parliament right at the worst time possible for Canada, when Trump takes full control of the USA. And we have these tariffs and these negotiations and these understandings that need to happen between our two countries. And there's nobody to discuss anything with Trump. Trudeau can't talk to Trump. Trudeau's not even officially a leader at this point. He says he's going to resign, so he has no authority whatsoever. And neither do the Liberals. We all know the Conservatives will just take 50% bite out of a four-party system. Trudeau has really maneuvered himself to give him leeway. He's like, oh, I'm gonna resign in the future, but he can do whatever he wants. He doesn't even need to resign. He's not actually resigned, and he's tricked everybody, guys. Another trick by the two-faced Trudeau. So let me read this story, and we'll discuss it more. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau resigned today. Well, he didn't. He said he has fought for Canada since 2015, but the division in government has made it impossible to govern. In pretending to resign today, Trudeau nullified the need for an emergency meeting of Liberal legislators that was scheduled for Wednesday. Trudeau had managed to escape calls for his resignation before Christmas, but he's expected to lose the next election badly. His popularity has plummeted in the wake of his authoritarian handling of the COVID pandemic and constant support of foreign wars and government expansion, which has tanked the Canadian economy. The Prime Minister announced the prorogue, or suspension of government, until his party can announce a new leader, which he has said will happen in March. However, this could be a ploy to deny Canadians an election, delaying the scheduled October 2025 vote for up to 6 months. Like, that's the actual real election. So he can actually delay the forced actual election, that happens regularly in Canada every feels like every century. But oh man, and not only that, when can a non-confidence vote be entered? And now if Trudeau is gone, if he is gone in March, the non-confidence vote goes on Trudeau or on the party? How does that even work? He has maneuvered himself like a freaking snake here. This is deplorable. This is terrible, guys, now that I'm starting to understand what he's actually done with this chess move. Here's some people's comments here. Trudeau's resignation speech, for anyone that follows politics, was a shameful masterclass in dishonesty. But we did not expect anything more from this narcissistic PM. And of course, he plans to shut down government for another 3 to 4 months for the good of Canadians.
I do wish that we'd been able to change the way we elect our governments in this country so that people could simply choose a second choice or a third choice on the same ballot, so that parties would spend more time trying to be people's second or third choices, and people would have been looking for things they have in common instead of trying to polarize and divide Canadians against each other. I think in this time, figuring out how to pull together and find common ground remains something that is really important for democracies.
Oh man, just listening to this snake. He's been talking about during the entire Freedom Convoy and all his reign, his stomping on Canadians. Everybody needs to pull together as he freaking rains down on us. Oh, what a chump. Deplorable.
But I could not change unilaterally without support of other parties our electoral system. That wouldn't have been responsible.
Prochaine question. Tonda McCharles, Toronto Star. Prime Minister, up until 3 weeks ago, you were intending to stay, and it seems that the event 3 weeks ago of Ms. Freeland coming out and saying you were firing her as your finance minister was the catalyst that brought us here today. So can you explain your side of what happened there?
Chrystia has been by my side for close to 10 years now. She has been an incredible political partner through just about everything we have done as a government and as a party over the past decade. I had really hoped that she would agree to continue as my deputy prime minister and take on one of the most important files that not just this government but this country is facing, but she chose otherwise. In regards to what actually happened, I am not someone who's in the habit of sharing private conversations.
Oh, what a piece of shit. Garbage. She was by his side the whole time as they reigned over Canada. And then, of course, he was going to put another female under the bus as he keeps promoting hiring females and making fun of other people who don't hire females. He throws another one under the bus. But she deserved to be under the bus, of course. Along with him, they both should be under the bus. What else can I say?
But I'm wondering if you feel that another leader will have more success than you will at beating Pierre Poilievre in the next campaign.
Pierre Poilievre's vision for this country
Oh, here he comes.
is not the right one for Canadians. Stopping the fight against climate change doesn't make sense. Backing off on the values and strength and diversity that Canada has always worked to pull itself together on is.
I wonder if he's like pinching himself as he does these lies about he just, like, is he like got a little stab, how some people like crazy narcissist psychopaths or might be like torturing themselves in their pocket as they're doing, like he's got like a blood hole and he's sticking his finger inside himself. Like, what has Trudeau even if there is a climate crisis, but you can always do good for climate. What has Trudeau actually done for the world? He's outsourced to dirty countries to produce power instead of we can make clean energy here. The electric vehicle is just propagating something about making batteries in Africa by slave child labor, using tons of coal to produce the power to power these cars, making the batteries that have to be thrown away, making the solar panels that don't last over 10 years. When all we needed to do was sell energy, make energy, and sell it to countries that are making dirty energy, to remove the dirty energy. Like, the benefit is huge. And us 6% of the world, what about like making some influence on actual problems and instead taxing us to death, taxing us into submission, where you're at the teat of the government. Help me after they throw you in the ditch and then they throw you a little a little fishing line to help save you, right? To help get, but you can't actually climb out of the ditch with the fishing line. You need like a real rope with knots, but that'll never happen.
It's not the right path for the country. Attacking journalists, the CBC institutions, that's not what Canadians need in this moment.
We don't want propaganda Canadian Trudeau broadcasters.
We need an ambitious, optimistic view of the future, and Pierre Poilievre is not offering that. And I look forward to the fight as progressives across this country stand up for the kind of vision for a better country that Canadians have always carried, despite the tremendous pressures around the world to think smaller, to veer towards the hard.
Oh, what a piece of shit. It's so hard to listen to this asshole.
Right, and to be less ambitious for what we can be and do as a country when the world really needs Canada.
That's not an answer, though. Yes or no? Is there another leader that could beat him?
Absolutely.
Sur le leader?
Oui.
Non, mais est-ce que vous pouvez
Pierre Poilievre.
élaborer en français, s'il vous plaît? Merci.
Pierre Poilievre a une
French, please.
vision
Well, Pierre
profondément
Poilievre has a
Ugh, what a piece of garbage. Yeah, somebody's going to beat him. Absolutely.
In 2008, the Governor General correctly concluded that because the very last times in the previous weeks that the confidence of the House had been tested, it had passed that confidence test, Stephen Harper continued to have the confidence of the House. And it actually would bear out because as soon as they came back from the prorogation, Stephen Harper won a confidence vote once again. So a political document or political speeches doesn't carry the kind of weight that winning a confidence vote means. But this prorogation will take us only into March, and there will be
Only into March. We've been waiting for an election to get this asshole out for freaking years. And it was supposed to happen before Christmas when Yegmeet starts to finally pretend that he's going to not vote along with the Liberal, like long as he stopped kissing his ass because he's getting his pension soon. And then his pension is coming in February. And, we're going to start to vote against it once I get my pension. But now we're going to be well beyond that into late March for a non-confidence vote, and nothing's going to happen in Parliament. Nobody's going to be discussing what's going on with the US and Trump. There's nothing to get done. Trudeau now can just do whatever he wants, and there's nobody overseeing him. He has full reign to do an emergency act. There's probably going to be people protesting in the streets about this prorogue, about non-election, about what he's done. And the Governor General, this woman, is in his pocket. He requests the prorogue and she signs it for the benefit of Canadians? Not at all. She should have said, no, that is not in the benefit of Canada for you to prorogue, because we all know what you're doing is preventing to have a non-confidence vote when you're clearly going to lose now that the NDP say they're not going to support you once Yegmeet gets his pension. Oh, man. We're in such a bad position. We're in way worse position now than we were. He's really outmaneuvered Poilievre because he was planned on having this non-confidence vote and winning and being done with Trudeau.
The confidence votes in March in the passing of supply that will allow Parliament to weigh in on confidence in a way that is entirely in keeping with all the principles of democracy and the workings of our strong institutions.
Mais avec respect, M. Trudeau, y a-t-il pas quelque chose un peu
Only into March. Trudeau really wants to go to that G7 summit, in June. So it'll take a while for him to get out. I don't even know the process once there is a non-confidence vote, before the new party actually takes over. But he's just delaying and keeping himself in there. And then he can renegotiate. All of a sudden, March comes around and he's like, I'm going to be the leader and we're going to delay Parliament again. And we're going to have an emergency act, which is going to delay Parliament and delay a non-confidence vote. Again, I was talking about people will be protesting this. This is, once they understand it, it's going to start happening this coming weeks. People are going to be pissed off. They are suffering. They can't afford the rent. A lot of people can't afford to buy any decent food. People can't, certainly, there's no savings. People, they can't afford their mortgages. People are losing their homes. People are going to be in the streets. And then guess what? He's going to use any excuse and he's going to call them again racists and terrible people when they just want him gone. And he has the ability to make an emergency act again and delay all of this. Rain down. He could be stomping on Canadians again. There's nothing to think that Trudeau won't do anything like that.
All the principles of democracy and the workings of our strong institutions.
Mais avec respect, M. Trudeau, y a-t-il pas quelque chose un peu antidémocratique?
With respect, don't you think this is undemocratic because you're not allowing Parliament to express its lack of confidence in your government while your party's looking for a new leader? Shouldn't you just call an election? Don't you think that'd be the better approach? I think you've clearly seen, as everyone has in the parliamentary press gallery, just how the Parliament has stopped working over the past few months. We're constantly facing questions of privilege. There are constant filibustering,
Très peu accompli
and we've been able to do very little, in fact,
les derniers mois au
over the
Parlement.
past few months in Parliament.
Le Parlement a besoin d'un
Parliament
reset,
needs a reset, I think.
a besoin de
It needs
Because he refused to release the files that show his corruption. So Parliament's been at a standstill because of Trudeau not handing over, the Liberals not handing over the information that's been requested.
se calmer un peu les pompons
needs to calm down a bit
pour se remettre au travail pour
and
les
needs to get
Canadiens.
down to work for Canadians.
Politique
We
constante.
shouldn't be constantly involved in petty politics, and that's what we're seeing from the Conservatives. So this reset requires two things. First of all, purgation.
Pour que justement
So
The words of a dictator.
on recommence avec
that we can
une fraîche approche.
start with from a new approach in Parliament. And secondly,
Le Parti libéral va
the
entamer
Liberal Party
leadership.
will undertake a leadership race.
Je m'attends à ce que si c'est pas
And,
moi qui va mener le parti dans les
If I'm
prochaines
not the one
élections,
to lead the party into the next election,
qu'on voit actuellement au Parlement devrait aussi se calmer.
polarization
You notice he said, if I'm not, right? He hasn't resigned. There's going to be this little pretend race with the Democrats, liberals. It could be just like the one in the USA where there doesn't even matter who people vote for. It's just declared by the WEF and by the globalists and the Soros and everyone who's getting their freaking maple badges. They're just going to be like, this is the new leader we're running with. Sound familiar? Sounds very familiar. Do you remember what happened at the Democratic Convention? Oh, right, there wasn't even one. And even if there was one before, it clearly shows that nobody wanted Kamala to win because she lost in the very beginning of the Democratic Convention a long time ago. She was completely destroyed by Gabby. Oh, what a joke. This whole system, this bullshitter.
in Parliament that we currently see should die down a bit. Canadians need a well-functioning Parliament, especially in this very complex world of ours. And these two things
Le reset.
that I just mentioned will allow us to reset Parliament.
He says like, oh, we need to take a break and reset, but there's no like parameters about what that. As soon as you get back, there's like, you think somebody's going to take a different stance? That's a bunch of malarkey. It's just filibustering.
And why not an election then? You didn't tell us that.
The Parliamentary Press Gallery and anyone who's been watching politics closely over the past months will know that Parliament has been entirely seized by obstruction and filibustering and a total lack of productivity over the past few months. We are right now the longest serving minority government in history, and it's time for a reset. It's time for the temperature to come down, for the people to have a fresh start in Parliament, to be able to navigate through these complex times, both domestically and internationally. And the reset that we have is actually two parts. One is the prorogation, but the other part is recognizing that removing me from the equation as the leader who will fight the next election for the Liberal Party should also decrease the level of polarization that we're seeing right now in the House and in Canadian politics, and allow people to actually focus on serving Canadians in this House and with their work the way Canadians deserve.
On va prendre une dernière question.
Good morning, Prime Minister Stephanie Taylor with the National Post. Given, as you just said, there's going to be confidence votes in March, opposition parties have said they are prepared to bring down your government. What kind of chances do you think you are leaving to your successor, given that there will only be mere weeks for them to introduce themselves to Canadians before heading into an election, potentially?
That's just it. By proroguing the government, they're going to be advertising, spending our Canadian tax dollars to advertise their new leader, whether it's some NATO dipshit like Mark Carney or like some environmental, hey, minister, like their current one kind of style. Like they're going to be advertising, all over the TV, promoting this liberal convention, bunch of idiots. This is all advertising. We're going to be in January, February, and March. 3 months they're going to have to do that.
I have a tremendous amount of confidence in both Canadians and in parliamentarians' interest in serving Canadians in the right way. We're in a minority government right now, and there hasn't been an active leadership in a minority government in more than 50 years in this country. And there is always going to be the challenge of having a leadership race while a parliament would face confidence votes in the course of delivering supply to the government. So this is something that we're going to navigate through, but I truly feel that removing the contention around my own continued leadership is an opportunity to bring the temperature down, have a government that will focus on the complex issues that are coming forward in the
I sure hope this ends quickly, guys. I want to get on with my morning.
coming months, while the party gets to have a full national process that brings in people from right across the country and makes a determination about the best person to carry the progressive liberal standard into the next election.
Can you clarify whether ministers who would like to campaign for your job will have to step out of cabinet? And how can the Liberal government be in a position to protect Canadian businesses and Canadians from the threat of tariffs from incoming President Donald Trump when members of the government are going to be focused on who's going to be taking your job?
The government will still, and the cabinet will still be very much focused on doing the job that Canadians elected us to do in 2021, which is fight for their interests, stand up for their well-being, and make sure that they are good and that Canadians are
Oh my God. And make sure that they're good.
are protected and strong. There will be a leadership process and the rules will unfold over the coming weeks, but I can assure you that the tools and the need to stand up for Canadians, to protect Canadians in their interests and continue to fight for the economy is something that everyone in this government will be singularly focused on.
Yet Trump has no interest in meeting with you again. You went in and out of went and visited him, and you're back in Canada within 24 hours, Trudeau. And he made fun of you the entire time after you're leaving, and probably in person, about you being a governor. Like, you're just a laughing. Nobody's going to negotiate with you. Trump is not going to negotiate with you. He's not going to negotiate with your little environment new minister, freaking Mark Carney, if he's the one to replace you. You guys are trolls. You're going to get Canada nowhere. It's all about yourself. Well, let's end on a few comments from John here. Even at key moments when state's personship is clearly called for, he can't even try. His semi-resignation speech is a narcissistic cliche mill that starts and ends with him, not Canada, and is appallingly trite and self-centered throughout. And here's the people like not quite understanding his speech is not a resignation speech. It's just a maneuver. Andrea says, watching the fool give his resignation speech, the only time I'll enjoy this idiot speak. No, he's laughing at us. He's tricked us. He's tricked so many Canadians with that bullshit speech. See, another one. He did resign. Yay, watch PM Trudeau's full resignation speech with the ha-ha. Yeah, see, he's really maneuvered this one, this freaking piece of crap. Okay, guys, we're going to end there. Wow, 24 minutes of just this terribleness going on in Canada. We're right back to protests coming forward, guys. I see it happening. Big protests across the country. Let's hope. Make sure everyone keep it absolutely 100% peaceful, even though they'll have saboteurs as usual. We don't want to have Trudeau do another emergency act. We don't. This is what unless he said. It's all a setup. And what are you going to do? You can't, people are going to want to protest. This is Ernie Racing. What do you guys think, Canadian journalists? What do you guys think is going to happen? Do you think people will be in the streets? Do you want people to be in the streets, peaceful protesting? Are we just going to sit on our hands until March? And, you know, the Attorney General has this power with Trudeau where there's nothing legal to like overthrow what he's done that I know of. Let me know what your thoughts in the comments and share. Cheers.